Hey guys, Xlice here, just enjoying the sky with my beautiful Zibai. Sorry, okay. I got the chance to test out Zibai and Illuga on Genshin's Creator Experience server for 6.3. This is kind of going to be a 2-in-1 video, since both Zibai and Illuga are new. But the main focus will be Zibai, since Illuga is mostly going to be a Favonius EQ swap bot for Lunar Crystallize. In this video, I'll provide you as much knowledge as I can on what Zibai does, how to play, how to build, how to gear, how to team, how to Zibai. All things filmed are on Creator Experience server and subject to change for full release, so keep that in mind. Let's get into it. So, Zibai is Geo, and is a pure defense scaler. We'll be doing Lunar Crystallize damage, has large amounts of crit, a little EM, a little ER, and is a horse. 2026 is Year of the Horse. Uma Musume horses. She is a very beautiful, good-looking horse with jade color design. Very nice everything. Anyways, unlike common defense scalers like Noelle, Ito, or Chiori, who basically dual scale on both attack and defense, either through conversion or just scale up both stats, Zibai is pure defense scaling, meaning her weapon choices don't really care about the star level or base attack, as long as her secondary stat or passive is relatively decent. This means old school classic like Harbinger of Dawn will be useful again. We'll talk more in weapons. Let's go through a kit breakdown. Now, unfortunately, I'd love to use the test dummy in Miliastra, but for Create Experience server, the function is unavailable if you are testing new characters. What you need to know: she is an on-field main DPS. She has a special mode. You activate it with a skill. You spam Geo-infused normal attacks and an enhanced skill. That's this Spirit Steed here thingy. She introduces Lunar Crystallize into the game and has a unique passive that converts a reaction. Other characters like Columbina also enable the same thing, but characters like Illuga will not. So, Illuga will be buffing Lunar Crystallize, but does not have the default conversion. Now, Zibai's playstyle is very similar to Kanish's playstyle, if you're familiar with him. Instead of a Night Soul bar, she has her own special energy bar. It'll charge up, and at a certain threshold, she can launch her enhanced skill. The special bar, which is called Lunar Phase Shift, will start at 0, has a cap of 100, and gains in the following ways: 10 per second naturally, 5 when normal attacks hit on a 0.5 second cooldown, 35 when Lunar Crystallize is procced once per 4 seconds, or this cooldown will be immediately reset if she uses her enhanced skill right away. When the bar is at least 70 out of 100, or that little icon lights up, you'll see it. Her enhanced skill can be used, and it costs 70 of her special bar thingy stuff only. This will be her playstyle. You will normal attack spam into enhanced skill during this state. This will end after either 15 seconds or after she uses 4 enhanced skills. You, as the player, will want to use 4 enhanced skills as soon as possible for maximum DPS. We are not going to stall out her enhanced skill duration because there really isn't much benefit to it. Obviously, for techniques, we might see them down the line when players go crazy with min-maxing her. We'll see. Her burst adds a nice little extra nuke. It deals geo damage and extends her enhanced state by 1.7 seconds. This 1.7 second thing isn't actually useful, since most of the time you will use 4 enhanced skills before 15 seconds anyway, but it is there just in case you got to deal with some enemy mechanic or stall phase that lasts 1 second amount. Now, more importantly, all of her damage is split between normal geo damage and Lunar Crystallize. In her enhanced state, the 4th basic, the 4th hit here, is Lunar Crystallize. All these 3 are normal geo. The 2nd hit, the 2-hit damage here of her enhanced skill, is Lunar Crystallize. That's this one. And then the 2nd hit of her burst, the 2-hit, is Lunar Crystallize. So this one, Lunar Crystallize, this one, and this one. When you take a look at her damage in a typical team setup, those lunar damage numbers will be the largest things that you will notice and that she does. Most of her damage is going to come from her enhanced skills, and you'll have 4 of them per rotation. Occasionally her burst when you have enough energy for it, and the basic is going to be optional. Even though her 4th basic is Lunar Crystallize, it's okay in terms of damage long term because you might be dashing and things like that. So you're more focusing on skill and burst damage. Overall, her gameplay is basically you press skill, enter mode, you spam your left click button, and you press E when it lights up 4 times. Burst used if available between enhanced skills, but not necessary. It's mainly used as a mini nuke that replaces normal attacks during the rotation. Now for extra passive benefits. So A1 is going to give her enhanced skill Lunar Crystallize extra damage by 60% of her defense. That is going to be the 2nd hit here. Boom. A4 gives her nice buffs depending on team members, but it doesn't force you, which I kind of like. You add a Geo for 15% defense each. You add Hydro for 60 EM each. So double Geo is 30% defense, double Hydro is 120 EM. And of course, last one, we have Lunar Crystallize conversion and base damage increase. And then of course, moon sign level +1. Also, at night, when she's not in combat, she gets free energy over time. On paper, kind of cool, but it's mostly for exploration. And now that you know that she's an enhanced skill spammer, it's kind of just a minor luxury, because if you're overworld, you're just going to press your skill and then slap things. So yeah, that's basically her kit in a nutshell. For talents, only the skill and burst matter. Normal attack is not defense scaling multiplier, so this is completely dead, okay? Skill has new multipliers here and has the enhanced skill, which is really nice. Skill is going to be first because you're going to be using this 4 times, all right? And then burst is going to be next, which has once per rotation at max. Okay, now briefly, what does Illuga do? He's going to be your typical skill burst swap character. Burst has all the goodies, okay? You buff Geo and Lunar Crystallized damage kind of the same way as Llama buffs Lunar Bloom, but on a much weaker scale. You also get more benefits the more Geo constructs there are, but overall, you basically just care about the extra damage that he gives you. He does give 5% crit rate and 10% crit damage and 50 EM from this, which is nice. Extra bonuses to Lunar Crystallized when 1, 2, or 3 Hydro or Geo characters are in the party. Zibai, Illuga, and 1 extra Hydro is 3 core already to max this out, so don't worry about it. He does give Moon Sign +1, but does not auto-convert your Lunar Crystallized. So by himself, he's just a Geo buff bot. You'll need Columbine or Zibai for a Lunar Crystallized buff. I will be running him C0 for this entire showcase because new 4 stars at C6 is really not easy to get at all. Weapons, Favonius. Very nice. So yeah, skill, burst, swap off field, done deal. Oh yeah, important to mention, with the 5% crit rate here and 4-piece Sky, Zibai has an extra 35% crit rate she can work around. Now let's take a look at our weapons. As a pure defense scaler dealing lunar damage, we need to remember the following things. Avoid elemental damage bonus. Lunar damage does not scale with damage bonus, so things like geo damage bonus, elemental skill, or burst damage bonus don't do anything for her. This actually rules out a lot of possible weapons for her, so we're sticking with max crit value, any defense we can find, and occasionally some elemental mastery. She also has crit damage ascension stat, which makes her crit rate have a bit more breathing room on weapons even if you run 4-piece Sky. This is valuable for Harbinger of Dawn, described later. So first up, her signature. This provides a solid chunk of each, and a unique Lunar Crystallized damage increase. 88 crit value, 64% increase to Lunar Crystallized, and 20% defense. Other possibilities if you don't plan on grabbing her weapon. We have 5-star Lo-Fi. This has 96.2% total crit value from the secondary stat and the extra crit rate. The extra EM conversion here to normal attacks and skills is also nice. 5-star Uraku Misagiri. This is Chiori's signature, 88.2% crit value with 20% defense. Ignore the damage bonus, it has no value, so this is just a stat stick. 4-star Espitzal. Forgeable from Natland. This one's raw defend stat stick. 69% defense from the secondary and a 16 to 32% more defense from the passive stat with refinements. In total, you're going to get 85 to 101% stat from this. And then finally, a 3-star Harbinger of Dawn. This is an old classic that comes back. Just stay above 90% HP. Total CV is 102.9% if everything, including the crit rate bonus here, is kept active. With 4-piece Sky, which gives 30% crit rate, Illuga at C0, which is 5%, this passive active 28%, and a base 5%, she'll be starting at 68% crit rate with no substats with Harbinger of Dawn. This allows for 32% from artifacts, which is doable, but can be risky to overcap. So for the most part, her weapon choices are limited, but easy to achieve in my opinion. Signature will be her best for sure, but we also have a 3-star option, a craftable 4-star, and 5-star stat sticks. I would highly recommend using an optimizer to determine the best weapon for your build. Harbinger of Dawn risks overcapping crit rate, and Espitzal can lead to diminishing defense returns because of how much it gives. And then the 5-star stat sticks just exist. The good thing is that you'll have at least Harbinger of Dawn or Espitzal to choose from without investing anything, which both provide upwards of 100% stat for her. Now running through artifacts. So probably as simple as can be, since there really isn't any feasible alternative. We have 4-piece Sky with defense crit. There is no 2-piece option that really comes close to 4-piece Sky, so farm this if you plan to play Zibai. Mediocre pieces on 4-piece Sky will still do their job until your artifact quality improves. Main stats are pretty set in stone. We have defense timepiece, defense goblet, and crit mask. ER main stat timepiece is not really worth it. Burst uptime is optional rather than necessary. Geo damage bonus goblet does not affect lunar crystallized damage, which is the majority of her damage. But if you don't have a defense goblet, you can use one temporarily. It will still improve her base geo damage. Or you can take a defense goblet from me. If you don't even have an offset defense goblet with decent CV, we need to trade account luck. For the mask, we can either go crit rate or crit damage depending on your build. Just remember to cap at 65% crit rate with Illuga at C0 and 60% with Illuga at C6. Crit damage mask will be more common, but because she has no natural crit rate from weapon or ascension stats, you'll find that crit rate mask is actually possible if you have super heavy crit damage artifacts. When you got a full build, this is what you can approximately expect. Got 2.7k defense here. We got 65% crit rate. I'm overcapped by 1% for Illuga C0, so I'm at 66%. We have as much crit damage as possible, extra elemental mastery, and whatever recharge you can get. This 66% crit rate, by the way, is made with a crit rate mask and about 7% crit rate average on other pieces. So even though she's on 4-piece Sky, keep those crit rate masks just in case you end up with similar stat distribution. Now, a quick gloss over constellations for those interested. Feel free to skip forward if you just want to see her in action. C1, using her skill to enter lunar mode, starts her off at full bar instead of 0. And she can use her enhanced skill 5 times instead of 4. So basically, you get 1 extra usage and you can front load it at the beginning. The first enhanced skill you use also gets a major increase in damage to the lunar component. I would consider this functionally similar to Mualani C1, where her first shark bite gains extra damage. C2, during her lunar mode, all party members deal more lunar crystallized damage. And her ascension talent that originally was 60% is now 550%. This just gives her more damage. We'll need to personally see if this increase is significant on my C0 to C6 showcase. C3 is skill plus 3. C5 is burst plus 3. C4. So this one's actually pretty cool and actually useful for getting value out of basic attack 4. Otherwise, your dodges and skill usages might reset it. Basic attack 4 in lunar mode now does more damage as well, and it's the only one of her basic chain that deals lunar crystallized damage. C6. So this one's interesting. 50% faster lunar mode bar generation, and her enhanced skills now consume all of the bar instead of 70%. Any extra bar consumed will give 1.6% final damage per point to that skill's lunar damage, and any additional lunar damage from her burst or basic attack 4 within 3 seconds. If you use the actual full bar, which is 100 points, it'll be 30 extra points over the base threshold, giving 48% final damage bonus. I expect this one to be pretty significant and looking forward to it for my C0 to C6 showcase because it improves all sources of her lunar crystallized damage. Overall, her constellations are basically just more damage at every stage. It seems that C1 and C6 will be the most powerful, but I'm still interested in seeing the extra bonuses from C2 and C4. All right, now let's see how she performs on the battlefield. So I have 6 setups that I'm personally interested. It's not an exhaustive list of team comps possible, but it will provide a good basis of comparison for what changes impact team damage the most. Our primary lineup is going to be Zibai, Columbina, Illuga C0 plus Flex, where Flex can be a Nefa, Goro, or Zhongli. When the Flex is a Nefa, we can replace Illuga with Shieldin and also see how that does. Farina is also a possible Flex option, but her damage bonus does not affect lunar damage, so I'd rather just recommend you pick up Nefa. Alright, so Columbina will be on Prototype Amber the entire time to satisfy survivability needs when shielding isn't enough. This means that all teams with Nefa can squeeze a bit more damage out with being a signature or Favonius to lower recharge needs because you have a Nefa for shielding. Zibai and a Nefa will be on signature weapon. Illuga, Goro, Zhongli will be on Favonius. Shieldin will be on instructor 4-piece and her signature. There may be better layouts than this, but this is what I defaulted to on short notice. Here's our general artifact layouts. Zibai on 4-piece Sky, Illuga on 2-piece EM when below C2, and 4-piece Serenade when above C2. But I'm not going to be activating C2 in the showcase, so he's going to be 2-piece EM. Columbina will be on 4-piece Serenade when Illuga is on EM, and she'll be on Moonset when Illuga will be on Serenade. These are just recommendations for you guys. Nefa is on 4-piece Moon, and Goro Zhongli will be on 4-piece Instructor. Because my Illuga is C0, again, like I said, he'll be on 2-piece EM with Columbina on 4-piece Serenade. And when each showcase happens, refer on screen to specific layouts for each character because they may slightly change from team to team. Alright, now let's go through the teams. So I know most of them have Nefa in them, and you probably need her for your Lunar Charge team, but it's valuable for me to show you that she does work with Lunar Crystallize, is very powerful, and is competitive with teams without her. First, we have Illuga C0. In this setup, we have a pretty standard Bina into Nefa start, since they have the longest uptime on their abilities. Then, Illuga skill, burst swap into Zibai. Even with the extra Lunar Charge reactions from Nefa, Zibai is still able to get 4 enhanced skill usages. Personal damage from her comes out to 240k burst and 200k enhanced skill with all buffs active. Boss HP looks about 40% consumed. Next, we're swapping Illuga out for Shieldin at C0. She'll be on 4-piece Instructor here. Since we have 3 unique elements with Bina, Nefa, and Geo, the Shieldin setup is stable here, and the damage improvement is pretty notable. 280k burst, 220k skill, and total boss HP consumption around 45%. Next, we're taking that exact same team, but swapping her signature weapon for Harbinger of Dawn. I also switched her mass to crit damage for the showcase to compensate for the heavy crit rate gain for a fair assessment. With Shieldon's burst, our HP should be topped up even with the local legend sapping HP at the beginning. The damage loss here to Zibai herself is pretty noticeable, 205k burst and 170k skill. But considering that we lost the signature weapon's passive, providing 64% extra damage to lunar crystallized damage, this is expected. Overall, the team's damage still consumes about 40% of the boss's HP, despite Zibai herself losing over 25% of her damage. So, with Columbina and Inefa, the team's damage is well distributed to multiple members. If you're planning on running a no Inefa and instead hyper buffing Zibai, expect the team damage fall off to be much more significant because Zibai is all the team's damage. That being said, this age-old 3-star weapon is still kicking it strong out there. Next, we're going back to the Illuga C0 setup, so bye-bye Shieldon, and replacing Columbina with C6 Ino. Zibai is back on her signature weapon. In this setup, Zibai's damage is back to normal with a 240k burst and a 200k skill. However, the Hydra application is much weaker, and Zibai takes a lot longer to get those enhanced skills off, and in general, the team's damage takes a huge plummet. We lost about 1/3 of the team's damage, and boss HP consumption is about 25%. Now for the non-Inefa teams, C6 Goro first. In these teams, we're able to add 4-piece instructor to the lineup, so Zibai becomes the true hyper carry in these comps. Zibai's burst is now 355k, and her skill hits 300k. Our enhanced skills have also faster execution time, leading to shorter rotations. Boss HP consumption tallied at about 33%, meaning our team damage per rotation is lower than with Inefa, but Zibai's personal output is significantly stronger. Given also the slight time save per rotation because we can use her skills faster, this setup is not bad. And finally, let's throw in old Unk Zhongli. He replaces Goro, and he will hold 4-piece instructor since there's nothing better for him to hold here. Notice that Zibai's damage is weaker here at 288k burst and 242k skill. However, we have significantly more lunar crystallizes, much better particle generation, and Zhongli's shields res shred benefits Columbina as well. Boss HP consumption ends up almost identical to the Goro lineup at 33%, despite Zibai's personal damage being about 20% weaker. With one extra constellation on Zhongli, you can throw an extra pillar on the field and resonate even more. So that's all of my showcases for Zibai finished. Couple takeaways from these comparisons. Inefa and Columbina is expectedly a very strong duo. Doesn't take away from that many lunar crystallizes, and you get increased value from res shred across the team. All my Illuga teams will improve from C0 to C6. I'm not exactly sure how much, but I expect it to be maybe 2 to 3% team DPS. Maybe more, depending on how impactful his raw C6 stats give and the +3 levels to his skills. Between C6 Goro and Zhongli feels way more satisfying. You get around the same damage, but the energy is way better, and seeing all the stuff resonate is low-key satisfying. Harbinger of Dawn is a goated 3-star weapon, but you will notice the most impact on hypercarry comps. Overall, I do not expect you to put Inefa in this comp because you would be stealing her away from Lunar Charge. Therefore, I would recommend the Zhongli style comp because it feels the best. If you have it, C2 Shieldon will also be really useful flex off for this comp. I'd go something like this: Zibai, Bina, C6 Illuga, and C2 Shieldon. Because this is mostly mono geo, you do need C2 for Shieldon to work out here, otherwise you are going to need to add Inefa in. This type of team comp is going to be hyper buffing the Zibai, and Bina also gets benefits from both due to her own lunar crystallized damage from her skill. So, what do you think? My personal closing thoughts: Zibai plus Columbina is strong enough where Illuga C0 or C6 is nice to have but not necessary. The damage output seems to be comparable to Flynn's and Nefer from my Columbina guide, but we still don't have the Inefa or Lauma that those comps gain so much value out of. Illuga is there, but he doesn't nearly have the same impact as those two. Currently, the Zibai damage is good. She's really easy to play, and I'm looking forward to Theory Crafters experimenting with the best combo to deal the most damage with her normal attacks and enhanced skill combo. And we'll see in the future if there's any sussy Geo unit on the horizon that buffs Lunar Crystallize the same way Lauma buffs Lunar Bloom. Otherwise, we're going to be sticking with Illuga for the time being. I would recommend picking Zibai up if you plan on having a C6 Illuga, if you already have C2 Shieldon, or if you have just C1 Zhongli. Those are enough to feel really good about using her. Otherwise, I would consider her to be fairly easy to build, can use FTP weapons, and also has an easy build path. So feel free to pick her up if you want just something new to try. She's also a horse, and she's beautiful, and it's the year of the horse. So, you know, you gotta do it. That's gonna wrap it up for this early access review guide and showcase. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future releases and gadget summon videos. And I might see you on my C0 to C6 Zibai showcase, which will release on my second channel. Thanks for watching, and take care.